Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Comics Pals Reviews. This is our last one for the year, and we've got some pretty good books on tap. I, of course, am your host, Sean, joined this week by Marco.
What's up?
We're here to talk about Swamp Thing Green Hell, number
Oh, wait,
one.
wait. Hold that up. Keep that up. Keep
Take a
that up.
look. Yes,
That
take
looks
a look.
All right. That looks nice. That looks good.
Look at that. That's beautiful. That sweet art.
That
Human
sweet
Target.
physical.
Yes, physical. There you go. Gotta get that in there. Human Target number 3.
Nice. Is that a glossy cover or like one of the plastic outsides and the papers in?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are nice.
And then we've got Devil's Reign number 2. So pretty good covers at least, but how are the comics inside? We're going to get to that in just a moment. Before we do, I want to let you guys know how you can support the show. Leave us a like, follow, rating, and a review wherever you listen to us. Doesn't matter where it is. On Spotify, you can now leave podcasts, a review, and a rating. So please do that if you listen to us on Spotify. Even if you don't, you've got a Spotify, just head on over there and drop us that 5-star rating. We really appreciate it. If you listen to us on YouTube, that's youtube.com/The Comics Pals. Head on over, hit that subscribe button. We are close to our goal of 500 subscribers. Of course,
close.
Our goal is like as many subscribers as possible, right? But like for now, that's what we're hoping to get to. So help us out if you haven't and drop that subscribe. It's free to do. All that's free to do, and it helps us out a lot more than it costs you. Listen to our main show, The Comics Pals, which drops every single Monday. We just dropped our last episode of the year on Monday, so go check that out and look forward to our first episode of the year coming out this Monday. We've got you covered. And we've got you covered with the reviews for today. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Swamp Thing Green Hell. That's quite a title. Jeff Lemire, Doug Mankey, David Barron, with Steve Wands on lettering duties. So this was a hotly anticipated book for us, especially, I would say, this particular duo here on the podcast. Marco, how did this live up to the lofty expectations that you had?
So I think I mentioned it on the show this past week. I was really excited for this because one of the concepts that we're touching on is the rot, the red, the green, and that's something that we haven't done in quite a while. The current Rom V, the Swamp Thing, has been really, really good, but it hasn't delved into like that matter or that concept within the Swamp Thing sort of lore there. Right. So for that to be what they're tackling here, I thought would be a lot of fun. I don't know how I feel about it I guess I do know how I feel about it. In practice, I think it was a little cheeky. Just the dialogue of having the individual parliaments like just be chatty with each other. Yeah. It kind of diminished some of that value for me, and some of the more not mystical, I guess mystical aspects of it, because they are these grander pieces, and we haven't gotten to like the really good stuff for the Alan Moore Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
where they touch upon this a bit more. I know you're familiar with it, Sean, because of the Scott Snyder stuff. And it's such a different vibe. Like the way that they present the parliaments, the way that they present the concepts, it's so much more different. I think worked better elsewhere, unfortunately. And that's not to say that the book wasn't good. I had fun with the narrative. I had fun with the story. I just think the inclusion of Swamp Thing, I don't know, made the book any better.
Yeah, I think I come down in a similar place. Like everything looks good, right? The art's great, the letters are great, the colors are great. The script is solid too, but this is one of those times where I actually think the idea, like the actual concept, is what I'm struggling with, because Swamp Thing as a vessel for this desire to purge Earth of man, that's kind of weird. And there's a way that I could get with that, but I don't think that this was that way. Just because even like the last people, right? By and large, they seem to be like decent people. like there's this little town of people who are just trying to get by, doing their best. You would think that Swamp Thing would want to encourage that and help them forward, not destroy them. And if Swamp Thing does want to, or if the Green rather wants to destroy them, then in my mind, it would be because things are so far gone that this is a necessity, not like a evil villain pantheon having a plan,
Yeah.
just a natural course of Earth. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
the presentation was weird. And then the fact that the avatar ended up being someone who we saw be not a good person in life, I don't think that helped either. I think that made no sense, actually.
They've so we've gone over the stuff. Specifically, I'm thinking about when Woodrue became, or not became the elemental, but was part of the Green in the Alan Moore run. That
Yeah.
first arc that we read for the book club. Like there, you have the Parliament get twisted and want to, destroy Earth and whatnot. I think the context there made more sense because it was somebody foreign entering the space and having those desires
Right.
being fed into the Green. They've dabbled with this in the past. It's never been super clean. I think the concept of a vengeful Earth can work, but I don't know that it's always the best in execution. The second volume of Swamp Thing towards the end, the Mark Millar stuff, that's kind of the concept. But there, the destruction of Earth is because, well, Swamp Thing is the elemental of the planet Earth, and there he's just a god. So it doesn't. It's almost like a Dr. Manhattan situation where like the normal goings on for these people are insignificant to him because at the end of the day, the Earth's going to survive, and that's what he cares more about.
Right.
So I don't know. These kinds of stories, I think, really, really rely on the execution, and I don't know that it was really nailed here. I hope the second issue, because I'm definitely coming back for it, will give us a bit more. But you call that like the bad guy being the avatar. That's something that they have done. Like Grundy actually was at some point like picked up because like he died and was resurrected. That's his whole gimmick. And so he at some point was like a false elemental and this whole situation. So it's been done in the past. But still, I don't know. I didn't vibe with it.
Even like the way the issue ends with Constantine bringing Swamp Thing, I guess, forward from the past or from some different place, Alec Holland Swamp Thing, where he's okay, he's happy. Bringing him here to deal with this situation, like, does that even make sense? Like, I just don't really, I don't know. It feels too feels a little hokey, actually. Oh, wow. Hey, John Constantine lives in this lighthouse and he just happens to be around so we can summon Swamp Thing and we can get some swampy on swampy action. Just, yeah.
Constantine's usually a driver of a story in Swamp Thing stuff, and we've seen that with Ron B's thing. But like, even still, I think I would have much rather preferred it just be him driving that narrative rather than we needing. Because I agree, it's definitely hokey that he's just here and let me bring on the good Swamp Thing.
Right. If the Green is okay, the Green essentially is in control of Swamp Thing in a sense, right? Like the Swamp Thing is a fusion of the Green and the human being that gets absorbed into it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if you take a Swamp Thing from the past and bring it to the present, wouldn't it be compelled to live out the agenda of the Green, no matter where it is?
It would. The thing is, I don't know that it's being brought up from the past. I think so what ends up happening is when you no longer are the avatar, you just become a parliament member and you're basically just like chilling in paradise. So right. I think that's what happened here is that he was brought forth from that paradise, from that respite. Yeah. To be called upon again to fight back against whatever the Green is. And it's not always the case where you'll have an elemental or Swamp Thing come up and be aligned with the green. It's
Uh-huh.
usually a plot point, but in this case, I think that made sense. That he can pull up Alec Holland, and Alec Holland's like, "Oh, what's going on? Oh, I need to fight the green because they're being evil and shit." Like whatever. That's something that I think is okay and makes sense.
Huh. Okay. Well, let's talk about the art a little bit because, like we said, the art is good. Um, I think you said, did you say that you were not a fan of Doug?
No, that was a Kale.
Kale, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that. This page is outrageous. I'm holding it up for you all on
Oh,
YouTube.
that was so good. Oh my god,
Yeah.
when you first see that thing,
The monster swamp thing, the evil swamp thing, it's just crazy. Um, I really
yeah.
didn't know what to expect from this book. I didn't think I was going to be seeing things like that. So I'm pretty pleased. That was really cool from a visual standpoint.
The visual showcase is definitely where it's at for this book for me. There's like I want to say 3 or 4 splash pages where we see just like this monstrous swamp thing come and just fuck shit up, and that's cool.
Yeah. And like the main Swamp Thing book by Rom and the Mikes is a visual showcase, but in a more subdued, almost like esoteric is where I want to go.
Mm,
In the sense that it says a lot without doing bombastic stuff like this. This
yeah,
is just a crazy, cool, nasty, horrific image of this big hulking swamp beast. And you won't find that really over there, not in this way. And I like that now, for the time being, there are two distinctly different Swamp Thing stories on the market.
I was gonna ask you, how do you feel about that? Because it's never been my experience that I've had to consider more than one Swamp Thing book at a time. So
Yeah.
like, it's weird that I'm like, oh yeah, this book is absolutely like slaying, and this book's like, meh,
Right. It's not as good,
yeah,
like it just isn't, at least not to us. We really love what Rom's doing over there and what the crew is doing. But I like that it exists. If somebody wants their Swamp Thing, but they don't necessarily want to dive into Rom's work, which I think you should go get that trade.
absolutely.
This is a decent like palate cleanser in a way from some of the more heavy stuff that goes on in the main Swamp Thing book.
I think that this book is more. Hmm. Okay, let me know if this makes sense.
Yeah.
The art here makes the book and this book feel more like monstrous, but Rom and Mike Perkins, that book feels more horror focused, and I think it has to do with the thick inks that Mike
Yeah.
Perkins brings, the sort of noir shadow vibes that we
Yeah.
get. And so I think there's much more of a stylistic choice to lean into horror, where this is absolutely horror, but it feels more of like monster of the week kind of situation.
Totally agree. This feels like what look, Doug Mankey's gonna do what he does, and he does superhero comics,
Mhm.
like by and large. That's what I know him for. DC, he's a DC artist, and that's what he does. So no matter what the genre, if you will, is, he's gonna bring his style, and that is his style. He
Yep.
didn't switch it up for this. So it is a horror book, but it has those DC hallmarks from a visual standpoint that lets you know, hey, this is still a DC Swamp Thing comic book, different from the way that the Swamp Thing is also a DC comic Swamp Thing book, but it doesn't necessarily look like DC.
Yeah.
Even the issues with the Suicide Squad, they look slightly different than how you might see them depicted otherwise. Like there's not those necessarily all those cool action poses and things like that. It's a different beast from what this is, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Even the colors. I think the colors in particular, Mike Spicer on the Swamp Thing, and then did Doug do the colors on this one too?
On the colors here, it was actually David Barron.
David Barron. Okay. I mean, they did a good job, but it's not the same kind of stylistic and visual feast that the other book is. I feel bad that we're kind of consistently comparing it. Like for what it is, this is good. Like absolutely good. No, nothing bad about it. Nothing wrong about it. It's just there's unfortunately that comparison point, and it doesn't. I don't think it stands to it.
Well, to me, I would say it doesn't even have to be like that. That the Swamp Thing is a person's unilateral choice as the better book. You could read this and think, "Oh, this is excellent." I love
Sure.
it. That's not impossible. Just for us, we feel a bit spoiled. That's more because sorry, Marco comes from the school of like OG Swamp Thing, right? Which the legacy of that is carried over in Rom's work, but
Very
that might
much.
not be for you. So it's just two different types of books. I think this one struggles a little bit from the fact that it wants to introduce this huge concept, doesn't necessarily have all the time in the world. So there are some cheats that Lemire does use to get where he wants to go. Doesn't necessarily work perfectly, but as Marco said earlier, like we're definitely going to read the second one.
Hmm.
And there's no reason why this creative team can't pull something brilliant out. So
Yeah, 100% agreed. This is a 3 issue mini, I want to say.
I want to say that that's correct. I
Yeah.
believe so.
And I think the format is really cool. It is oversized,
Yeah.
so it looks nice. And Sean pulled up the book earlier. It looks like that nice black label sort of European album stock book that they've been doing
Yep.
recently. It looks really good on the iPad. It fits it much better as well. So like, well, truthfully, I am jealous, Sean. It's still it works. It's good. The format's good.
I definitely agree. It's good stuff. You know what else is good stuff? Human Target. Human
Oh,
Target is good stuff.
real
We've
good
got
stuff.
issue 3 here. Tom King, Greg Smallwood. You know,
Anna de Armas.
absolutely. The thing that's cool about this book is that every time that Tom King has a new series, whoever the artist is becomes the showcase
Yeah,
and a contender for Tom's greatest co-creator slash artist.
for sure.
And Greg Smallwood is definitely staking his claim here in this book. This is just visually just fantastic on every level.
I think the what Greg's been using to his advantage has been we're sort of in this like color space in DC Comics recently where people have been actually just in comics. I'm thinking even like something like Beta Ray Bill where these bright contrasting colors, secondary colors, greens, yellows, pinks, they're all just mixed into the books,
Mm.
but laid down against these classic styles. And Greg Smallwood here is taking his noir leanings, then mixing in these pop art colors, and it just makes the book like delicious.
Yeah.
This second page, yeah, the second page where we see Christopher Chance and then guys just in the bed. It's being cut across with the yeah, like beautiful stuff. And those are against the like blindfolds
Right.
on the windows to let the sunlight in. Classic movie trope for this kind of a genre of a book, and it just gets elevated.
Yeah. It's that's a very beautiful scene. And like I always it's funny because sometimes artists will take shortcuts by not drawing backgrounds
Mm,
because it's too hard. And obviously here they are in a room, so there isn't a lot to show. But Greg Smallwood does something really smart. He says, okay, all I have to work with is a hotel room. So, but I'm going to infuse that with style by saying these walls right here, they're going to just be green.
yeah,
And the blinds are going to let in this like really deep yellow light. So that's going to be a contrast between, hear me out, the green of the Green Lantern, right? And the Green Lantern's weakness being yellow, fear.
oh shit.
And his fear is that Christopher Chance is messing with his girl.
Yo, that's crazy, bro. You blew my mind. That's so good.
So
Holy
yeah,
shit.
brilliant, brilliant stuff.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Shit. Greg Smallwood, kudos, Eisner, right here. Just give it to him.
Yeah. And so I like the inclusion of Guy Gardner. We're kind of mixing things up a little bit more because we also get Booster here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't care for Booster Gold. I'm not really a fan of his. I know a lot of people are, but he's never been my bag. He's fun here though. He's a lot of fun.
I feel like I only know Booster Gold from the cartoons, and he's always been like a joke character in those. So I think this lived up to what my expectation of a Booster Gold character would be. He's just kind of like a screw up, but
Right.
and he says it right, but at least he's fun, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And a good middle point between Guy and Christopher Chance.
Mm,
In that, Guy is super serious and Christopher Chance is just super cool and got Booster's super goofy. I love that. But then what we also get here is each of these new additions has a reason to want to have killed Lex.
yeah.
So Guy wants to kill Lex potentially because he believes that Lex, or I guess Lex did, kill Ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Booster might want to kill. Well, Booster has the ability to have killed Lex because he could have gone back in time to get undetectable materials like the water. So I like that. Really smart stuff by Tom King to see the potential for everybody who's appeared so far to have been the culprit here.
Yeah, it sets everybody up in like a this mysterious light where you wouldn't otherwise put them. Like you walk in on Booster Gold opening up his first bagel shop, but the bagel shop is the potential for murder, and
Right.
that's just that in and of itself is goofy. And Booster Gold being a goofy character, it just works perfectly. Yeah, well done on that part for the just leveraging the plot and the individual characters. I cannot wait for Martian Manhunter because I'm very interested to see what that's gonna look like.
That's going to be a lot of fun. And this is such a good murder mystery because think about like Strange Adventures, right? We knew that something was off. We knew that, there was a question mark as far as the truth and the lies and all that stuff. But the way the mystery was kind of put together was a little bit janky and it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here it's concrete. We know what the mystery is from the word go. We know who the suspects are. The perpetrator will inevitably be one of these people. And each issue is a promise. The issue is saying, hey, you're going to see more of the potential suspects. You're going to learn why they might want to have killed Lex. And they're going to interact with Christopher Chance.
Easy. Boom. That's
exactly. Exactly. That's a book. And you add some tremendous art, smart dialogue, and you have a series that's worth investing in. I have nothing to complain about here.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
These have been probably, I think, the most solid Tom King issues I've ever read. We're 3 issues in, and I feel like every time we do a Tom King review, I have either an issue with pacing beat from the get-go, an issue with the dialogue off of one issue to the other. But this has been so clean, consistent, and tight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just knocked it out of the park again. So this 3 issues deep, do you have any theory? Do you feel like it was any of these people that we've seen so far who tried to kill Lex?
I'm still convinced that Martian Manhunter has something to do with it. I'm gonna wait for that issue just because I think that was the guess I had locked in.
Okay.
But if we're talking about tropes, Ice is the immediate. She comes in, she's too nice, she wants to help out, and I don't know. I guess I was thinking about it, and I wouldn't hate that because it would just play like right into what this book is, and I can only imagine it come off really clean and well executed. But if it's not, I won't be mad because I won't see it coming. At least as of right now, I still don't.
I think my guess when we did that, the first episode was Guy.
Mm.
I don't actually believe that though.
I think you said you like clarified that. You just like said that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to guess right now, which again, like who knows, I feel like Fire is a great suspect.
Yeah. Okay.
She still hasn't appeared. She's got an axe to grind. Lots of talk about her, had no presence yet. So
Hmm.
I think she might be a factor, but Ice knows something either way.
And that's the other thing is that I feel what King does here is that he introduces these characters where they have some sort of piece of information. Um, to your earlier point, but some of these individual characters also know more than they're letting on, and that's also good, just interplay.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much fun. It's intriguing. It's engaging. This is a great book. I would say definitely pull it. And if you are hearing us and haven't read any issues before, just go pick them up. There's only 3, so
This was my book of the week.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it was mine as well. But I have to say, Devil's Reign, pretty good. I know you're not too enthused with the like close connected nature of it, the event aspect of it, but let's talk about it anyways. This is Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto, uh, colors by Marcio Menez, and Clayton Cowles doing the letters on this and Human Target. So how about that?
Dang.
Yep. Crossing borders, as it were.
Chip will be soon too.
Yeah, right. Batman, who's Batman bound.
Yes, that's gonna be cool.
Yep. I thought this issue was still pretty good. It continues from where the last issue left off. We have a Civil War type situation where the Superhero Registration Act, not by name but by concept, is being employed once again in New York City, causing New York superheroes to go underground. The Fantastic Four have been captured. Steve Rogers and Luke and all these different characters are on the run as Kingpin employs his plan. I don't think comics are better than when the villains have the upper hand for some reason and the heroes have to, and when I say comics, I mean superhero comics.
Sure.
And the heroes have to, find a way, despite themselves, despite the situation, to overcome. And that's what we have right now. Kingpin has never been in a better position to annihilate his foes, but the heroes are going to persevere somehow, some way.
And I think that makes for good drama. Underdog story, you like to see it. And I've been getting more used to the event nature. We've been doing a lot of those for the book club and like even for the weekly readings. And so the concepts I think are coming through a bit more. Like I'm getting it more every time we read one of these event issues or an event. Not necessarily my jam still, but I'm definitely appreciating it a bit more. It's fun to see, like, you have Danny Rand in this book, and then you come back and Elektra's here, and you flip the next page, and then you're seeing Luke Cage and Spider-Man, and those are all cool beats, all cool moments, because you want to be able to play in this sandbox. And if you're playing in New York, these are all characters that live here, and it only makes sense would interact. It's what Kale always says. You're kind of playing with your action figures here, and that's fun. Mm-hmm. I think the story worked well, easy enough to follow, where I feel like I don't need to know necessarily what's been going on in the Daredevil books still, because this is pretty self-contained. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I had fun.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're supposed to get out of it is fun. There's a lot of stuff here for people that really care about these characters. Like the idea of Luke Cage being the one that runs for mayor is huge. As somebody who grew up, like, Luke Cage is one of the heroes that I grew up with. When I first started reading comics and New Avengers #1 by Brian Michael Bendis, Luke Cage was one of the earliest heroes that I saw. So to me, he's not lesser than anybody else. He was the leader of the new Avengers. So this journey that I've been on with this character for well over 10 years now, this feels like another major chapter of that, which I really love. And someone who, is coming into this without that backstory for Luke, that doesn't quite have the same impact. And in that regard, you do have a tough job, right? Like you have to craft a moment, craft a series that works for someone who's a casual reader, right? And someone who's got long-term investment. I
Yeah.
think Chip did that here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Luke being pulled up, like when they said that, I'm like, oh, that actually feels right. It makes sense, and you get that. I think what a good example is, I'm trying to find it, when they're in the park and they're hiding, right? And Tony's like, "Look, I'll give you money," and Luke's just like, dude, do it for me. Like, and you can feel that that's because he's from the neighborhood. You can feel that it's because they respect him. And so when it came to that page where it's like, I think I should run, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's a well-respected member of this community, and that only makes sense if you're going to run up against a villain. That makes for good storytelling.
Yeah, totally. I will say there are parts of this issue that do feel like they exist to set up things that may not necessarily occur within the pages of Devil's Reign, and that is a sin, if you will, of some event stories. That, of course, goes as far as like if it bothers you that you might have to read something other than the event to get, whatever it is you're trying to get. Like, for example, the Elektra versus Craven fight. Will that happen here? That's crazy.
That was
cool.
crazy. That was cool. That was something where I was like, oh damn, that shit happens. Like I would honestly read that. Even if that's like a tie-in, I would read that shit because that was set up and that was fucking cool.
Yeah. That was an awesome moment. Seeing the villains kind of unite. Is that going to be something that happens in Villains for Hire, which they tease in the back? I don't know. But so far, this series is doing absolutely everything I wanted to do. You got Doc Ock, who I love, playing a major position. He's got his own angle. He has his own agenda that's separate from Kingpin's. I love that. Spider-Man is in a bad spot right now.
Yeah.
He is in a rough position. And I love that too. So really, for me, there's nothing to dislike.
In that advertisement, also at the end, did you see it said Luke Cage, City of Fire?
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because I was going to bring that up. Like the Luke Cage City of Fire promo was here alongside Villains for Hire and Spider-Woman. Luke Cage City for Hire, or City of Fire rather, being the only Devil's Reign tie-in that I know of that got canceled.
Yep.
And clearly by issue 2, Luke Cage is a major piece of this story. Spider-Woman isn't even in the story. She hasn't even appeared yet. Mm-hmm. So how is getting her book out more important than getting out Luke's book?
Honestly, any of them at this point. Like,
yeah,
he's literally poised to be the next candidate. And if what we know about that Luke Cage book is right, it would have been dealing with the discrimination and disparity in New York City. Like that makes sense for him to tackle that as an issue, not as the superhero, but as a potential candidate and political figure.
Yeah.
But we're not going to see it, so that sucks.
Maybe it'll come out down the road. Maybe Marvel will see some of the feedback that they've gotten about it being canceled and make a different decision. But as it stands right now, no, we won't be. So that's not good. Let's talk about the art. What'd you feel about what Marco brought to the table here?
It was tight. There was no complaints. I think everything here feels very much like you get a top tier artist on an event book, and they deliver. Clean beats, clean moments, good paneling, story flow works. This is a tight book. I don't know that they did anything, mind bending, but this was perfect for what it needed to be.
Completely agreed. Um, One of my favorite things about Marco Cicchetto's work is that it looks epic. It
Mm,
looks his style is, to me, in my mind, what an event looks like.
okay.
This is how Marvel event comics are supposed to look. It's got that. It has the echoes and shades of Civil War to it. It has
Mm,
that grittier kind of feel. This is what I want when I think about what an event needs to look like from a visual standpoint. He never ever disappoints. I've been a fan of his for almost as long as I've been reading comics, and it's just always impressive. Look at this picture for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Look at this Craven
oh,
panel.
yes. I was just looking at that.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Great posing, great colors, by the way. Just everything about this is gorgeous. I think this is Marvel putting their best foot forward, and it's clear why they wanted this to be an event and not just something that took place in Daredevil.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Have you been like have you been caught up on all the Daredevil stuff?
A little bit behind
Okay.
on Daredevil, but normally I think it's best when events spin out of things that are happening in comics.
Hmm.
So I always go back to Civil War. Civil War was an event that Marvel was leading up to for a couple of years at the bare minimum before it happened. And so you could argue that if you were a reader of Spider-Man, for example, Civil War spins out of that. If you were a reader of Iron Man, Civil War spins out of that. So all these different things leading up to this event, it makes it feel like reading the comics on a monthly basis is worth your time because it goes somewhere. This feels like that. Daredevil leading up into Devil's Reign feels good because things that happened over there matter here.
Yeah.
Your knowledge as a regular reader plays into it. Um, See how we talked about on the main show the upcoming Avengers versus Eternals event, and you were actually able to speak to it. That's what I'm talking about. The fact
Sure.
that you had knowledge, you're being rewarded because you're a regular reader of Eternals. That's what I'm talking about.
But to that point, right? Like it doesn't feel like that's spinning out of the book. And that feels like they're throwing an event together and then they want to just like plug it into the individual books. It feels like, oh, Avengers versus Eternals versus X-Men. And now we try to connect it, like we try to jam it into what's going on in the Eternals, because none of that's related. Um, if you had given me like a Thanos arc that is directly related to what's been going on the in the Eternals book, and that would be much more, I think, contextually relevant, and you would get my interest.
I see what you mean. In the initial Avengers versus X-Men series, if I'm recalling correctly, there was literally no lead in whatsoever. It was just like issue one, this is it, you know. So at least I'm happy that Eternals number 10 is gonna deal with going into the events of Avengers, Eternals, X-Men, and then also I think Celestia is called the
Yeah.
one shot
Yep.
that also deals with it. So there are seeds being planted, although it is very close to the actual like eventual event. There's something. So I like that a little more than how Marvel has done their events over the last 10 years, which have just been bunk for the most part
Hmm.
in terms of build up. But closing out our conversation on Devil's Reign, I think this is the good stuff. If you are a longtime reader of Marvel, if you like more street levels heroes, I think there's any number of reasons to buy this. Everything you love is here. Must buy, in my opinion. Definitely pick it up.
That's actually a good point. This is much more grounded than, let's say, something like the Null event, anything going on spinning out
Yeah.
of Venom, or uh, Tyler and I we did Avengers Forever.
Yep.
And this concept and being this close to the ground, I think is a good reference point, because I definitely don't feel as lost here as I did reading Avengers Forever.
Which is fair, because that is spinning off of Jason Aaron's very long time running Avengers run.
Mm.
That wasn't that was like, that could have just been Avengers number whatever XXX he's into at this point in his main run.
Sure.
That, yeah, which I didn't get to read that. But I know that so many of those things are spinning out of what's going on. So that's a weird one. But let's leave the listeners with our thoughts about the books that are coming out next week. Let's share with you guys our picks. These are not necessarily books we will review. They might be, we will see. But these are the books that we're looking forward to coming out at the start of the new year. Are you hot on anything that you want to shout out right now?
Yeah. So anytime that Matt Kint puts out a book, I'm there. He teams up with Tyler Jenkins, and they're putting out a book called Apache Delivery Service, which is a jungle horror story by Matt Kint and Tyler Jenkins. Two hunted men are on a hunt in the jungle of Vietnam, searching for clues to a missing treasure trove of gold that was stolen from all over Asia by a Japanese general during World War II. There's a bit more. You get some murder mystery stuff rolled in, and I trust these creators. I think Matt Kint, he delivers on pretty much any book that he puts out, and I'm a huge fan of Jenkins' art, and he works with his wife Hillary Jenkins, who does the colors. So that's a tag team that is out of this world. I'm very much excited for this. Any number one from these creators is in my pull list, and I'm trying to see. I think the only other book next week that's really tickling my fancy is Dark Knights of Steel. I've been having fun with it. Issue 2 is solid, and I'm looking forward to see what else Tom Taylor has.
Fair enough. For me, it's all about Inferno. Inferno number 4 drops next week, which is the end of Jonathan Hickman's time for now as a member of the X-Men creative team, as head of X, as it were. These covers are amazing. I love the cover A. It's a Jerome Pena cover. It features Mystique transforming into or out of Destiny. We don't know that. I guess that's the idea. They're so connected and together that you can't tell them apart. I love that. It's a great cover, but there are a lot of other ones that I think are really good. I like the cover D by Davey Go, which features Moira holding up some kind of I don't know if it's Magneto's helmet or what it is, but she's reflecting Magneto, Professor Xavier, Emma, Storm, and Nightcrawler to themselves. I really love that. So many good covers here. The Udon Hidden Gem variant is just Mystique standing with her hip kind of cocked, and it's a gorgeous cover. Marvel's pulling out all the stops for these great covers. Jonathan Hickman, Valerio Schiti, the end of the Inferno saga. There's no words for it. I'm pumped. I can't wait. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, this is hype. This has been an awesome book. Excited that, sad that Hickman's leaving, but I think he's going to leave it with a bang. So hyped for that.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be special. You can bet your bottom dollar we will be reviewing that right here next week, along with other amazing books. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know if there are books you want us to review that we're not talking about. If that is the case, you can write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. Get us on social at The Comics Pals. Leave us a comment wherever you're listening for sure. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thecomicspals while you are at it. Thank you guys for your support. We appreciate you as always. For Marco, I'm Sean saying until next week, take care, guys.
See you.